Hello and welcome to the coverage of Euros weekend. It's going to be 3 days of fun, which is one extra day compared to the regular YCS or to the National Championship. And Friday is not just like a little bit of a prelude to the rest of the weekend. On Friday we decide 3 of the players that are going to the World Championship. So the stakes couldn't be higher. And these 3 guys, they have to duke it out in a knockout tournament between 8 players. So they had to play for an entire year, they had to be super consistent. Now they ended up in the knockout portion of this super large tournament where we didn't just play like 10 rounds of Swiss, 11 rounds of Swiss. We played like hundreds of rounds of Swiss. And now they're going up against each other. If they get knocked out in the first round, that's it. That entire year, hard work didn't really pay out. But they have another chance tomorrow at the European Championship. So the stakes could be higher, and I know these guys are excited. They're not just playing for fun and glory, they are also playing for some really cool prizes. I got everything here. And before the Twitch chat assaults me, we got top loaders, okay? So these cards cannot be harmed no matter what I'm trying. I cannot even scratch on them. So, just for participating, every player gets the recent prize card. So that's already something. Some of them decided to pick up the prize card before the tournament. That's something you usually cannot do because they wanted to play it in their deck. So we got 5 more players that need to pick these up. And then I got a little token card for each of these 8 players. So I'm going to lay them out and explain the system to you. And we're going to switch to a different camera. All right, as you can see, these are the top 4 players. Raphael Neven, Paul Schuffenecker, we got Adrian Dursun, Jake Quincy, Sebastian Ma, Jonas Koschel, Joshua Schmidt and Din Kabui. These are our top 8 players that made it to this playoff. The first 4 guys have a fixed seat, so they are not going to play against each other. The other 4 guys are going to be randomly drawn against one of the first 4. So there's a chance that Raphael is going to play either against Sebastian, Jonas, Joshua or Din Kabui. Because we have to do a little bit of prep work before the tournament can start, we had to draw the first match already. Our die set number 2, which is Paul, and he is going up against number 7, which is Joshua Schmidt. So the first match you're going to be seeing on the stream today is Paul versus Joshua. And when I say the first match, what I mean by that is that we're going to be streaming all the relevant matches today. It's not like the other 3 matches are going to be taking place while we're streaming one match on camera. We're going to be playing that match on camera, and then after that we're going to be continuing with any of these. To decide who is playing who, I'm going to be rolling the die. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Dice has 1. So next match is going to be Raphael Neven against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 2, Sebastian Ma. These 2 are going up against each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 again. So that's Adrian Dursun. He's going up against Din Kabui. It's the 3rd match we're going to be streaming today. And obviously the last match I don't have to roll the die for that. So these are our matches in order. We're first going to see Paul Schuffenecker versus Joshua Schmidt. We're going to see Raphael Neven versus Sebastian Ma. We're going to see Adrian Dursun versus Din Kabui. And then Jake Quincy versus Jonas Koschel, in that order. The winners of the first round are going to be playing against other winners from the first round, obviously. In that case, the bracket takes precedence. So the bracket says that this is our this is a bit confusing, this system. So this is our first pairing in terms of the bracket, because we got the first seed here. And then also in the first part of the bracket is the 4th seeded player. And I think now I lost this. But I'm going to explain that to you guys when we're getting to it. So we can already, from that we can extrapolate the entire matches for the rest of the day. We are not going to be streaming the finals because it doesn't really matter who's winning this tournament. Both of the guys that end up in the finals are going to Worlds. We are, of course, going to stream the place for the match for 3rd place playoff because the winner goes to Worlds as well. That's all the information you need, and I think that's all the information I have. With that, let's bring in the players for our first feature match. We're going to be starting with Paul Schuffenecker. Hey, Paul. How are you doing? Please move in a little bit. So, we've never featured you at a YCS or something, and you've been like on top of the top 8 playoff points race for a very, very long time. How does one manage to stay under the radar for an entire year?
It's simple. I just play and see if I go in feature, but it was not the case, so I continue to play.
And you had a couple of great successes. Can you let us know about some of the highlights this past year? Like, what were the biggest accomplishments?
The first one was YCS Utrecht. I reached top 32. Then in Milano, I finished second after the round and lost in top 16. And yeah, it's the highest accomplishment for this year.
Okay, so you rarely made it into the top 8 of the super large events, but you were very, very consistent the entire year through.
Yes.
And in France, did you play like a lot of regionals?
Yeah, maybe I'd play almost 30 WCQ, 30 years during the year. In France and in Italy, almost, yeah.
How are you feeling about this tournament right now? Are you nervous, or do you think you got this?
No, it's okay. I got this. I'm not a little bit nervous, but it's normal because the challenge is high.
Yes. But the prices are also high. The rewards are also really great. How are you feeling about playing against Jushua Schmidt?
No, it's a very big player, and I hope the match will be great.
Okay. Thank you very much. Please have a seat. So as we said, his opponent is going to be Jushua Schmidt. Very familiar face here. Hey. Give it up for Jushua Schmidt, please. Okay, you got some fans. You've had an amazing year again. Obviously, maybe not the most successful one. What were your personal highlights that past year?
I think topping YCS Düsseldorf was one of them, because it was just the biggest one we had so far. Yeah, and then sadly I didn't do like super well in any of the YCSs, but I've topped a couple of them, so I'm still happy with it. So yeah.
And you came somewhat close German nationals as well. That one title that eludes you so far.
Not that close.
Not that close, but close enough to qualify. You were 7th in the points ranking. Were you feeling confident that you're going to make the top 8, or were you like nervous about it?
I was a little bit nervous, but I didn't feel the need to like try harder than I did, because 7th place is just as good as 1st place in this environment. So like yeah,
it's going to get the job done. So what's different about this tournament? Obviously, it's all almost one match decides almost everything. Yeah. How do you approach this tournament? You're a bit more used to it than the other guys, because Worlds is somewhat similar with a smaller field.
Well, it's very different because the first match matters so much, and so you try to make a deck that just wins the first round as safe as possible. And like, it's really hard to find a deck that convinces you, because you know that you can't lose. But there's just, at some point, you just got to accept that there's going to be some luck involved in this. And so I think my deck choice here is pretty solid. And now I'm just hoping for solid hands and all that kind of stuff.
How are you feeling about going up against Paul?
I haven't played him yet, so I can't say much about that. But he's probably a good player if he made it to the top 8, so should be fine.
All right. Please have a seat as well. Definitely consistent player. So the stage has been set. You haven't had your prize card yet. There you go. For this tournament, we of course got like world-class commentary. I'm going to kick it over to these guys now. So let's hear it from Marcello Barberi and Daniel Neville.
Welcome to day 1 of WCQ Utrecht. I mean, we are here with the top 8 players in Europe.
Yep.
And we have 2 of the strongest players of this season.
It is definitely quite an exciting event. I am very excited about this. It's the first time ever we are getting anything streamed on a Friday, actually.
Yeah.
And we saw last weekend where the USA National Championship also took place, and they also had to stream the playoff. It was slightly different because it was a top 16 for them, and only 2 players were going to the World Championship. For us, even more on the line, because we have only 8 players, but 3 spots for the World Championship.
Exactly.
It is going to be insane. As Oliver said, these guys are very accomplished. Anyone knows Joshua Schmidt? I mean, he's a 2-time champion. He had topped multiple events. So, of course, he's one of the favorites working into the event.
For sure. And then you have Paul, who has had just such an amazing season. Talking to the players throughout the year, we were kind of like, this Paul S guy, he's just been sitting at the top of the leaderboard for the entire season.
Exactly.
Like the first 6 months or so, it was just like Paul at the top, and people
And
just haven't seen him yet. And
indeed, because we did see some changes from the World Championship points from the last year. Like as a small reminder, basically USA events were taken out of the picture, which is very surprising in my opinion for one of our players, which is Rafael Neven. He won a YCS in the USA, YCS Chicago. He was so successful throughout the year, going to every YCS in the US, and he still was the first in Europe for points. So it was an incredible season for Rafael. Also, he is from the Netherlands, which is something that was not possible last year. So as a reminder again, this year every country in Europe matters. I have to admit I'm a little bit sad that no Italians made it. As a reminder, we have 4 players from Germany, Rafael from Netherlands, 2 players from France, one of which we're gonna see in this match. And lastly,
we have one UK player as well.
which is Jay Quincy as well. So we have a lot of big names, a lot of big players, and a lot of different decks. As Joshua said, it's very different event from what we're used to see.
For sure.
The first match matters a lot, because if you actually get to the top 4, you have a double chance of going, because even if you lose the top 4, then you get to play in the 3rd and 4th match, which is a big deal. So I think this is actually the most important match.
This is the most stressful round for the players, because this is really the make it or break it round. Particularly, I think it's interesting. We've seen French Yu-Gi-Oh! Really boom this year.
Yes.
Like, French nationals went from, like, a big nationals to being the largest
biggest
nationals
ever in Europe. It was the largest with more than 2,000 players. It was unbelievable, honestly. They had
bigger than some YCS.
Yeah, they had top 128, which is also, I think, a first in the history of the game. But anyway, quickly talking about the decks. So the format for this top 8 playoff is looking somewhat similar what we saw in the US. The most represented decks is still combo. We have 5 combo decks in the top card, being 4 Thunder Dragons Crusadia. And Joshua having actually a Spice on the deck, which is he's still playing Crusadia Dangers, but he's playing no Thunder Dragons cards at all. So that's surely going to be exciting to see. He probably thought that he was confident enough in the Sky Striker matchup, and I do agree with him that the Thunder Dragon cards are somewhat cloggy. Playing that many Crusaders.
It makes you more prone to things like Lancia as well, which, you know, we've seen Lancia be the most popular side deck card at all of the recent large events.
And it also plays well around Abyss Dweller somehow, and it makes your matchup against Salamantgreat as good as it gets. And Joshua is somewhat lucky here because he's actually facing against the only Salamantgreat player in our top 8, which is Paul. The remaining 2 players from our top card are actually on Sky Striker, which is also a deck that we have seen come back into the format, and we will probably see how this goes. We have a lot of different decks, a lot of different matches, a lot of action, but I think our players are ready, so let's just go to the table.
Cool. So, like we said here, we have the non-Thunder deck, the Danger Crusadia, possibly Chaos Dragons, depending how you want to name it. And then we have Salamantgreat. How important is the dice roll in this matchup, do you think?
It is definitely important, but I would say that not as much with Joshua version, because the Crusaders, for people not knowing, are basically an archetype of monsters which can all be special summon in a zone and link monster points to. And then they work very well with the Dangers and the Guard Dragons. And the really cool thing about them in the Salamantgreat matchup is that even if you're going second, they usually end on Sunlight Wolf, which gives you a zone, and then it allows you, for example, to side into Dankoseka without having fear of using your normal summon, because you can just special summon them all using the zone from Wolf.
Okay, and here's the dice roll.
So it is still going to be relevant, but...
And these are the new WCQ dice, which we've just seen.
I think Joshua won the die roll, I'm pretty sure, so we will see what this happen. Paul is maining Entrops, of course, and he is maining Ghost Ogre, which is something that we have not seen in a lot of decks. He opens only Ash Blossom.
And he has the Heavy Storm Dusters, which is actually something we'd been discussing. So Heavy Stormdusters is a really impactful card in this format, but we do see kind of two core archetypes in the format. We see the combo deck monsters, and then we also see the spell and trap based decks of like Sky Striker. And so we'd been discussing going into this event that Thunder Dragon was very likely to be featured. And if Thunder Dragon is in the format and you're expecting it to be highly represented, then Heavy Stormdusters is a very dangerous pick.
It is. I'm very surprised by it, but at the same time, it looks like he decided to go with the Trap Trick engine. So he's maining Trap Trick for the raid. You have the 2 targets which he has outside of Impermanence, but I'm very surprised that he decided to only side the Sanctums. I think they would have been a very good choice in the main deck. Anyway, we see an Ash Blossom here, and Joshua still has a very good hand with Sekka's Light, so you can see having a lot of Crusadias is paying off for him. Let's see what he picks up.
And Sekka's Light even will let him fix his hand if he has too many of one type of card.
Yeah, and he just picks up one of the Draco, which means that the Ash on the Magus did absolutely nothing. This is gonna be a very, very good opening here from Joshua. Also, the fact that he's not playing Thunder Dragons gives him a lot of freedom in his extra deck.
For sure.
He's playing multiple synchros because, as a reminder, one of the Crusadias, the Arborea, I believe, is the tuner.
It's a tuner.
So it's a level 3 tuner, and it allows you to go for some synchro plays, which are usually the FA, or Joshua is also playing the Psyframe Lord, Zephyra, actually. So
yeah, I mean, I think Dawn Dragster when you're going in blind. And also, if you're seeing a hand trap here, you know that your opponent's probably not on one of the Thunder variants, which means they're most likely...
Yeah.
I think realistically, you say, this player is probably on Salamangreat. They could be on something like Striker as well, because we have seen Sky Striker playing hand traps.
Sure.
But definitely, the most likely deck to play hand traps in the format is Salamangreat.
I would agree with that, and we gotta say that the only surprising thing was not seeing Orcust at all being played in this top 8. It was, and it is being the most played deck alongside with Salamangreat at events.
Yeah.
But I do agree with the choice of these guys, because it seems like it is the deck that's too weak going into the format. Lancia is so popular, Dweller is also there, so...
So again, we have a very polarized format because of the prominence of Sky Striker and the prominence of Thunder Dragon. And both Salamangreat and Orcust fall into the crossfire, where no matter what side deck cards your opponent is preparing for, they're going to hit both of those decks, because you're a little combo and you're a little back row. And so having the reliance on both of those does make you a lot more prone, particularly in a top cut like this.
Especially. So now we see the 1 copy of Danger Chupacabra that Joshua is actually maining. It does make sense because it is the only one that's guaranteed if you open multiple dangers to get you there. You don't really want to play Bigfoot in this deck because you don't really want to risk it getting sniped.
And this is, we see why Crusadia and Guard Dragons love interacting with each other. Crusadia Spada is able to move the Guard Dragon Elfie so that you're able to use a Link 2 to get your full Guard Dragon combo going.
And here you can see also the difference from a regular Crusadia Thunder. So usually Patra is cut because of space, but Joshua is not playing Thunder Dragon, so he has the option to actually play that in this deck, which means that he can combo off with 1 less card. And he's also playing kind of a Chaos Dragon engine, as you were saying. He's playing multiple copies of Eclipse Wyvern. He's playing the Defrag, which is something we have seen now in his hand, but like in Jesse Cotton's deck list, like in the past, I would say, from like the South American YCSs, but it has fallen off in popularity for sure.
Yeah, now this is interesting because he is resolving the Saryuja draw before the Eclipse Wyvern, and that is a dangerous move because we know Paul has Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and getting a Ghost Ogre down on a Skull Dread Saryuja is very impactful.
The only thing is that the Eclipse Wyvern is mandatory, so he can't really play around that, but...
and Eclipse Wyvern is such an impactful card in this deck.
Absolutely.
It gives you fuel for your Levianeer, and then also lets you search either Levianeer
or the prize card,
Emperor,
which
King
we're
of
going to
Armageddon.
see. Also, just as a nice reminder to everyone watching, everyone in this top 8 is getting a prize card. So he's getting a copy of the Chaos Emperor, alongside with 2, basically the VIP package for tomorrow, So they're going to be 2-0 walking into the event regardless. And it was allowed for players to pick up their copy of the prize card walking into the event. So it was definitely more accessible to them. And Joshua was one of the players who actually decided to cash in, let's say, his copy.
I mean, hey, look, you're getting a shiny prize card. You're going to play it, right?
Absolutely.
And such an impactful one as well. We've seen Chaos Emperor do a lot of work in the Thunder Dragon decks. Even at Nationals, we saw a lot of players playing it. I think it's the most impactful prize card we've had since Minerva.
Yes, absolutely, by far. Now we're going to see the nice interaction when you're playing the prize card with Pisti, where you can get the Eclipse Wyvern, because it's not once per turn, so you can just keep recycling it, which is very good.
I mean, I like adding cards to my hand.
Absolutely. Also, something important to mention is that we saw a trend in the Thunder Dragon deck list, and Joshua is following on it, to cut Diabolos from their decks.
Yeah.
It seems like more of a win more card than a card that you don't really want to draw, so...
Yeah, it's better when you're playing the Thunder Dragon cards as well, because if you end on a Dark Thunder Dragon, even with a bad hand, you can summon your Colossus and then also have a Diablos, which is like game-breaking against something like Striker, where they just can't interact with you.
So it makes even less sense here, but Joshua picks up the first game, so 1-0 for Joshua. Nothing to say, really. Honestly, we saw that the die roll didn't matter because Poland would have not been good even going first. He didn't have much going on. He had the Duster, which we see is immediately siding out right now.
Yeah.
And taking a look at the side decks, I think now Paul is in a better spot because Artifact Sanctum is by far the best card you can play against any of the combo decks this format.
For sure.
And he's siding 3 copies along with Trap Trick, so he has a lot of way to access it. And something very good about it is that it plays around Denko, potentially, I guess.
Yeah.
So
for sure. And so he has a lot of options in terms of interaction to bring in even when he'll be going second, assuming he takes game 2. So, like, game 1, I think Paul was very unfavored with his build.
Absolutely.
But for the rest of the matchup, he should be in a much better place.
Yeah, I think the game, or actually the match, is far from being over because Joshua is not focusing much on this matchup in his side deck because, as we were saying, when you cut Thunder Dragon cards and you play that many Crusadias, the matchup is incredible, both going first and second. So we can see he's not even siding Denko. I don't even think if he sides anything. The only cards I can see coming in are the Pancratops.
Yeah, you could bring in Pancratops, and it's a good going second card. The one fear of Pancratops is, like, there is potential that Salamantgreat might play Mystic Mine, and Pancratops is not good against that card. But realistically, I think if you are siding anything in, you bring in a Pancratops. It's such a versatile card. It kind of took the slot of Mystical Space Typhoon in a lot of lists.
Yeah, it is just a versatile card, and I think it makes a lot of sense. You never know what you're up against, and worst case scenario, I mean, it's usually always a 1-for-1, and it can be a 2-for-1, so it's pretty good. But yeah, on Paul's side, as you were saying, he's just going to cut his useless cards in this matchup. And something that I like a lot about his list is that he's making 3 Buffalo.
Yes.
Which I think it's a very good addition to the deck. We saw the Salamantgreat deck in the USA Nationals that had the most success, which was from Brian Rios. We lost, unfortunately, on stream in top 8. He was also maining a triple Buffalo. I think it's an incredible card at the moment. It just lets you go through your deck very fast, potentially going into the artifacts as well. So
yeah, and it lets you draw your non-engine pieces, which is really important. Because Salamantgreat has a lot of consistency in getting its board, but it really likes seeing those things like Sanctum and Called by the Grave and all those cards which give it a little oomph, because that's what it kind of misses out on often.
Absolutely. Also, by playing so many copies of Rage and Trap Trick, even if he gets the site, he can use the second effect of Rage to destroy his own site, so that way he can resolve still. The last thing I would say it's very surprising about Paul deck is that he's not playing Phantasme, either in the main or the side deck, which is also something that I'm not completely against. It is one card that is really good against Striker, and I guess, the mirror match, but if you're walking into a top 8 where you know, if you have been following these players for the entire year, there are not going to be many of those matchups. And he was right, because he's the only Salamantgreat in top 8.
I think there is still an argument for playing Phantasme, even if you are just going to be playing against Thunder Dragon decks, because Phantasme replaces itself immediately and allows you to build a hand which suits the situation best. It does have the anti-synergy with infinite impermanence, and that's probably why he's not playing it, because otherwise I think it's such an impactful card.
Absolutely, and now we see the hands being picked up. It's a very good hand now. As long as you see a copy of Sanctum, you're very happy in this matchup, and we see Jushua at the moment doesn't have any response, but he doesn't really play any response. As we were saying, you really don't need to side like much in this matchup, unless Sanctum is a thing.
Yeah, so the Danger decks have kind of returned to the position that they were in earlier in the format, where the Danger deck accepts that going second, it just has to hope that it has enough resources to push through what the opponent sets up. It's really difficult to push through Sanctum into sight, though.
Absolutely, and that's why I think we might just see the Rage being picked, the Roar being picked up here, because I think you always play around Danko.
Yeah.
Because we see Danko being popular in Thunder.
For sure.
And then if you have the Roar set up, basically the only card you can lose to if you use Sanctum is a Gamma. But there is also a cool interaction where if you summon the Sight under a Wolf, then Sight is mandatory, so you cannot Gamma it, because it will be Chainlink 1 Sight and Chainlink 2 Wolf. So
and you get a free card.
Yeah, you get a free card, and they cannot Gamma it, so it's looking like very, very good position here for Paul.
It's the sort of opening he wants to see. We see that he has Lancia's main, which suggests... Well, I mean, the deck is still playing Chaos Dragon parts, even though it's not playing the Thunder Dragons. So Lancia is still good, but I don't think it's as good as it would have been otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. Not as good. And something that you can also see from Paul shuffling his deck is that he is siding 3 copies of Droll Lockbird as well.
Yeah.
Which is by far the most impactful entropy against the Danger, and it just stops completely the Magius if they open a Danger plus a Crusadia, and that's gonna pay off walking into the other match if we are gonna see a game 3. So now no surprises at all. He's actually probably going for the Dweller at this point, so let's see.
I think there's no reason not to go for the Dweller. It does shut off things like Eclipse Wyvern, and we saw Eclipse Wyvern was very impactful in that last game there. I think he has a Tornado Dragon as well, but like you're not considering that in this sort of matchup.
No, absolutely not. I'm just thinking if there was a world in which a trap is better than Dweller, but when you have Sanctum set up, then it's just fine. Because the thing that's not great about traps here is that he didn't draw the Sanctum. He drew the trap trick. So since you want to play against Danko, you're forced to flip the trap trick right away, which means that your trap card is going to be dead because you can only use one. So it makes a lot of sense that he went for Dweller instead of a trap card, because he wouldn't been able to use it. So
yeah, so he has Dweller, he has access to Sanctum, and he also has Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring in his hand. He should be feeling pretty comfortable here.
Yeah, here I'm very surprised that he is not flipping the trap trick.
No fear, no fear.
Very surprised by this. This is such a bold move, wow. You can really risk it here, because honestly, having just a Dweller and an Ash Blossom is not good at all.
No, it's not sufficient. Perhaps he's considering whether or not he wants to have the option to go into the Salamantgreat normal trap card so that he can destroy cards, but realistically, destroying 2 cards is not as good as just saying, hey look, you can summon a few monsters if you want.
I think, I mean, I would expect him to have watched the US playoff and US main event last weekend as well, and we saw an unbelievable match in top 8 for going to the World Championship, where the Salamantgreat player actually opened like Dweller, Lancia, Ash Blossom, Roar and Rage, and he still lost.
Yeah.
Just because of Danko, so you have to play around Danko, and I'm very surprised that he's still not flipping the trap check here.
Yeah. It's a very interesting decision. Something we can ask him about after this round.
Absolutely.
Yeah, once you use your normal summon, you've given up the fact that you don't have Danko. And with our perfect knowledge, we know that Joshua just doesn't even have it in his deck.
Yeah, he doesn't have in his deck. There is a chance Paul knows, but I don't really think so, because as Joshua said, they don't really know each other well. Like Joshua has
really
never played. Yeah, Joshua
like,
got the danger sniped, which is not a good feeling against an Abyss Dweller, of course. So.
And there goes the Eclipse Wyvern, which again won't get to activate because of Abyss Dweller. So because Joshua is summoning his monsters in defense, he's not even going to be able to clear the Abyss Dweller. And if we see Sanctum coming down now, like, does he have any monsters with enough attack to do anything?
So now we're gonna see a trap trick. Are we actually gonna see the Rage?
No.
But then, again, I'm very surprised that he didn't just use it at the beginning of the turn.
I mean, you force Joshua to commit more resources to the board, I guess.
Sure, but I think you, like, by having Gazelle in his hand, another circle set, I think you can always win during the next turn, regardless of what happens here. So, very surprised. I don't think Joshua has many options. He does have W Levianeer, which is one of the better cards to play against the site. Actually, probably the only card that actually doing anything under a site, but we're gonna have to see. He tries again with the danger. I mean, he's trying his best. Honestly, game one lasted very, not very long, so they still have plenty of time in the round.
I mean, you play to your outs, because if the danger hadn't hit the Chaos Dragon Levianeer, then he would be able to establish it on the board and just try to kind of apply pressure. It's very unfortunate. He also has a lot of high defense. And
absolutely.
If there's something that Salamantgreat struggles with, it's dealing damage over things.
Yeah, and now he gets the Arboreal as well, which is the tuner.
Yeah.
So we might see some, I mean, you can't see synchros of course here, but the Levianeer is definitely one of the better cards to play around side, so
it's a light and dark Levianeer.
Yeah.
I think you just use it to attack. No, there's no point, because Balinx is about, so if you're attacking, you're only attacking over the Abyss Dweller.
Yeah, as you said, they still have very high defense, so they are all above 2,000. So
he's going to pop 2.
Okay, Circle was not chained, which I
mean, if you chain the Circle, then he's just going to pop the Dweller.
Yeah, sure.
Instead.
So I guess they can't pop it here. So now he picks up his cards, and I'm also surprised that he didn't add anything off with the Wolf. Like, he could have at least stand back or did he send the Stallion? Maybe
I think he added when he summoned the site.
Because he didn't add any monster. I guess he could have shuffled back a Stallion, because he still has the Shugazelle that he had from last turn. But now, as you're saying, he just needs to find an opening.
So he added Spinny back when he summoned Artifact Site under his Sunlight Wolf.
The only thing is, is he playing Fusion of Fire? I don't think so. So, yeah, he is not playing Fusion of Fire. I think it is in French, so we're trying, but it seems like he's not playing Fusion of Fire. I don't even see a Chimera in his extra deck, so yeah, he's not playing it, and I don't completely agree with the decision. I think Fusion of Fire surely is a card that you don't really want to open, but it is a very, very powerful tool, and it allows you to basically steal games very easily. Like, whenever you are in a position where you can have a grind game, for example here, where he's probably going to lock in the game regardless, he wouldn't even need to think about it, because this game would have been over instantly here if he was playing it.
Exactly. And Joshua says, yeah, you got this one. You want to make sure you have enough time here.
Absolutely.
Like, it would be such a horrible experience to miss out on Worlds because of time.
Yeah, it would be a shame to miss out like that. And now we're going to see a game 3 where Joshua is going to go first again with the same main deck as game 1. But Paul is going to have a lot more entropy. So he's maining 9 and he's siding 5 more, I believe. So he's, 5 more plus the Lancias. So it's actually 8 more. So he's going to have 17 entrops walking into game 3. Which
Sounds
is
very
good here for him. And just as a reminder, if he picks up a Drone Lockbird, it is quite difficult to play around it with this version.
What's your thoughts on side decking technique? There's a lot of different ways people side. I personally like smoke screening.
I don't really. I mean, I guess you can do it. I'm just more of a fan of actual impactful things, you know, like the way you shuffle shouldn't really affect you. It can preserve some information. Something that I think it's quite unexplored by a lot of players is just mind gaming your opponent and like letting them start. I think it is something that separates a lot very good players from average players.
Yeah.
From very good players, you see a lot of times where they play with going first or second, especially after siding. And it is something that surely is risky, but it can pay off a lot, especially in such a small tournament. Because if you go, like for example, tomorrow in an 11 rounds Swiss event, then people are gonna figure out then you're doing some weird things with your side deck. But when you're just playing 1 or 2 matches, it makes a lot of sense to do some unpredictable strategies.
I don't think there's any reason in this matchup to choose otherwise. Like, the problem is, if you're playing a full combo deck, unless you're afraid of something like evenly matched, you're never choosing not to go first, right?
Yeah. Usually you don't. But we did see at Italian Nationals that happening, actually. It didn't quite work out for the Danger player, but it got him to the finals, so I guess it should have worked out throughout the event. And now what comes up into play is also Jushua not having Thunder cards. Like, Thunder Dragon cards are definitely worse in game 1, I would say, but after siding, there could be an issue where you can summon a Colossus through Entrops.
Yes.
And if Paul is siding 17 Entrops, then a Colossus can be enough to win because it let him breaks by not being able to use Sign and Mining or Circle. Let's see the hands. Okay.
Ogres.
Ogre and Lancia is okay. It is not as good as having the Droll and Lockbear, which is the best entrap by far.
For sure. But Lancia Lancia should stand the entire Chaos engine. For people who aren't familiar, Chaos obviously being light and dark monsters that banish. So he won't be able to stop everything, but at a certain point in the turn, he'll be able to just say, look, let's slow things down a little bit.
It is going to depend a lot on Jushua, and the Ghost Ogre is quite relevant because using it on the LP is good. I'm very surprised that Paul is not using the Lancia here. Are you at all?
You don't even need to. I think you can hold the Lancia a little bit. You don't need to Lancia you don't need to Ogre the LP because you can Ogre the Speta and then they can't.
If they go for it, sure.
Okay, here comes the Lancia. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was just curious because you don't want them to shuffle back with Sekka's Light. So
yeah, I mean, I'd prefer them to put themselves in a bad position and having got to shuffle in with Sekka's Light.
Absolutely.
Like, if they've committed to setting up a banish and then you go Lancia, it's a lot more impactful.
So now I think the Danger needs to save the day, but at the same time we do see the Bro Tower, which is gonna be really good here because by hard drawing the Bro Tower, then you're able to use it on the Ghost Ogre, which is gonna be a huge deal here.
Yeah.
So maybe the Bro Tower will save the day for Jushua, but still quite a close call. Let's see.
It's gonna be an interactive game.
Absolutely. So the Danger here matters quite a bit. Let's see what he can pick up. Levian here discarded the best discard here in this hand because it doesn't do anything under Lancia. He picks up another Drago.
Not what he wants to see here.
Yeah, but not the worst card either, so...
I mean, even if his turn doesn't work here. Okay, so he's going to save it for the LP. I think I like hitting the Crusadia with the Ogre, just because it makes it much more difficult to get LP to do anything.
Because now, at the same time, the Art Drone Bro Tower, I think is probably one of the best cards you can get here. It is gonna be very, very good. I mean, it will allow him to extend his plays. He can pick up some like defrag, for example, which is something that plays around Lancia. I think that's what we're gonna see.
Yeah, so we have Protor on screen because a lot of people haven't actually seen this card. It took the spot of Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon in the Guard Dragon package. And it's way overperforming. It gives a lot to the deck.
And now, as you can see, Jushua unique deck where he doesn't play the Thunder Dragon cards. He has more slots. He has the Destrudo as well, which is another option alongside with the Arborea to go for the Synchro Summons.
Yeah.
So we can see how much more impactful like the draw and lock would have been in this case. Because Jushua is still able to go into Saruya if he wants. He can do quite a few things here. And getting the Draco is actually pretty good here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Saryuja means that even not being able to banish, Josh can get rid of any banish required cards that he draws and just have a few extra extensions and just set up as good a board as he can.
Also, because as you're seeing here, he can go into Saruya and then he can go into still a Synchro Summon plus the Erratic Link.
Yeah.
And with that many entraps being used, the Erratic Link is very good against Salamantgreat.
Yeah, so realistically, we're expecting to see an FA Dawn Dragster come down using the Destrudo. Unfortunately for Dawn Dragster, it has to reduce its levels, which means the Ogre that's in Paul's hand is going to be able to shut down that negation. At that point, it's going to be up to whatever other points of interaction.
Absolutely,
Joshua
but
can
we
set
might
up.
also see the Psyframe Lord Zephyra,
For
which
sure.
is also a card that Joshua is playing. We're going to have to see what he wants to do now, so...
Yeah, Zeta is interesting because Psyframe Lord Omega is such a well-known card and very popular, and Zeta just hasn't gotten the same amount of limelight.
Less popular brother, and still a good card. So now he special summons the Draco with the Saruya, and
he is considering bringing out Pitsy. Here comes Arborea. And that is why we see so many of the players in this top cut on the Thunder Dragon decks and on these Danger combo decks. Because look, we've seen Joshua has played through 2 points of interaction. And
absolutely, and still being able to go for some plays, which is honestly something that makes his deck once more very different from the standard combo decks.
Yeah. But you just have so many cards that do stuff that let you just establish as big a board as possible.
Now, as you're saying, we're going to see Dragster, we're going to see the Erratic Link here, most likely after a... And it's such a good opening because you even get to use the Pisty here, which allows you to go for the Agar Pain. So, quite a good opener here through 2 Anthrop. So kudos to him for being able to do this.
Shows a lot of practice with this deck.
Absolutely.
It's quite a difficult to kind of play through such weird circumstances.
Yeah. Looking very good. Ash is picked up here. Definitely not what he wanted to see. His only card is kind of locked because the only really good card he has is Signet Mining.
So if he activates Signet Mining and the... No, this is a really awkward position.
I think it is going to depend on the Foxy effect. If he doesn't use the... Like, he needs to Signet Mining this card. Yeah, he needs to Foxy, essentially.
Yeah. And he has to hope that he
he needs to get a really good card here. He does get the foul, but is definitely not what he wanted to see here. Gazelle or Circle were the cards he was looking for. Even the Spinny was better because he had the Signet Mining to discard it with. So better than nothing, but still looking very grim here. We're gonna see if
at least he has extensions now.
Yes, but they are kind of locked because as soon as you use Signet Mining, I would expect the Dragster to negate. Then you chain the Ogre, but then you're still able to chain the Abyss to negate it if you want. So it basically shuts down his entire turn.
So he's going to Ash Blossom to stop the Erratic Seal from summoning from deck. The thing is, Joshua has no cards in hand. So even though he has a lot of stuff on board, it might just be best for Paul to pass and hope that Joshua doesn't draw enough damage and then have more resources to commit to the following turn. Because if you just go for the Signet Mining play here, it's a play that does not win you the game. He's going to set it.
I think he's basically considering the fact that he's not gonna die to a lot of stuff, so he can, as you're saying, he can just wait. Because if he uses his cards here, he's done. Because as you're saying, he negates with Dragster, you can Ogre, but then the Abyss comes down and your end has nothing at the moment. if Joshua doesn't pick up something here with the Sekka, then he has a chance, because if he picks up any relevant card, he can push through this.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense to hold.
5,400 damage on board.
Yeah, I would probably not have said it, but like it makes sense that he didn't use it, just because you never know, something can come up here.
I mean, having a set card applies mental pressure on your opponent. Like, they have to consider the card more
It's
heavily
always
than
something that you should probably do, but it's not like there is much pressure when you have Draxler and an Abyss there.
Yeah.
It's probably
Yes.
better for Joshua in this case, because he's like, okay, so you have one less card that does something here.
He draws the Destrudo, which isn't going to help him here.
Yeah, the
he
Strudo
can't
is
even summon
completely useless here. He's gonna push quite some damage, and this next draw for Paul is gonna be deciding. Even though we have again the Foxy, which might be the MVP of this match if he gets him there. So
Adding 2 cards off Foxy, really nice.
I think here what's gonna be very important is where Joshua decides to use his Abyss. Because if he gets greedy with it, then the Ogre is going to punish him.
Will of the Salamantgreat is a really nice pickup here.
It is a nice pickup. Not the best, but it is actually quite cute, because what he could do is... I think he could have
There's a
rolled that.
lot of lines that he has available here. Well, the will means that he can actually bring back Foxy as well if he doesn't want to use the effect.
What I was thinking is maybe there is a line where you can use the will, and you special summon the Foxy, and then you normal summon the Ogre, and you make the Stalio that way, and you can try to push better like that. I think that might have been a good line, because you have the Sign in Mining to force out stuff.
Okay, so Hot Red Dragon is after negating
and this is a huge deal,
Foxy.
actually. This is going to be a huge deal here, because...
you see Ogre coming down, clearing the Hot Red Dragon.
Why?
Brotar is going to activate.
Why did the Ogre there, though?
He might not know that Dawn Dragster
Oh
requires
my, this
him
is
to-
such a slip up here. Because, of course, Joshua gets back some advantage for the next turn, but here, if you let it go through, then you can use the mining. He's gonna negate with Dragster, you Ogre there, and the game is pretty much over, because you get the Gazelle.
Yeah. I think he can still go into Balinks, grab his field spell, and start establishing a board.
But it's... I don't know.
It's definitely less than
It's
ideal.
fine, but I think I don't really see a reason why you want to Ogre there, so... Anyway, we're back on the game. This is still not over at all. It is going to be tough for Paul, but he can try to come back here. You can see Joshua with his hands behind his head, just hoping that he doesn't get there. Also, because as a reminder, he's only at 4,000 because he used the Destrudo.
Yes.
So he can actually be gamed here. So
Yeah, and Heath Leo offers a lot of pressure for the Salamantgreat player. Do you think there's ever a world in which Joshua is going to negate the Sanctuary? Oh, Paul is considering playing his Signet Mining. He's going to Signet Mining, discarding Sanctuary. Okay, Paul, Joshua negates with the FA Dawn Dragster, so it loses 2 levels, goes down to a 5-star.
yeah, I am not understanding what he's trying to do here.
He has Will.
Because he cannot push too much, can he? Is there a... yeah, I was thinking the same. Is there a fire in Joshua Grave?
I would assume
That might
so. Oh,
change.
there's a Crusadia.
That was... Is there a Reclusia? Okay, the Reclusia does change a few things. Because he is playing... let's check what he's playing in his actual deck,
So I think he's playing one of the Borals.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. So great play by him. We didn't know if there was any fire, so that being a level 3 makes a lot of sense now. So he can get back there, he can use the Stalio, and this is looking very grim. You can see now Joshua is actually shaking a little bit. So
Yeah. And it's such a high pressure matchup.
yeah, very well piloted here by Paul. So he can get the Gazelle online, and here I think it's pretty much easy to actually game him.
And I think this shows that once you get into the back and forth scenarios, Salamantgreat starts pulling ahead. like every turn after the first turn that you're playing, Salamantgreat becomes more and more favored. It's considering what he wants to send off Gazelle.
Yeah, I don't think he was like last turn. I think he would have like paid any amount of money to be in this position right now. So you really don't want to mess it up once you get to this favorable position. So here he just try.
So he's playing Update Jammer, which suggests that he's playing Borrel.
He's playing the OTK combo probably with the transcode.
Yes, he actually is. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically he has the Update Jammer transcode combo, which is also available to him if he wants to do that.
All he has to do is find 4,000 damage and he can seal the game.
Yeah.
If he doesn't find it this turn, Jushua does have a Chaos Dragon Legionnaire, which will really let him get back into the game.
Yeah, it seems like this is quite doable, because even if you send there the Jaguar, then you can use the piercing damage on the Brutar, and that's already 18. Then you spin back the Dragster, and this game is always over. So I think Paul gets it. He will probably get a slow play warning here. I think so. He got it from the judge, but it shouldn't matter much. He's still in a very, very good spot. So,
and again, like in these high pressure scenarios, there is a case that players can make mistakes, but he's been taking his time and he's been making sure to follow his lines to the best of what he can see. And it looks like it's going to be paying off.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it seems like it is working out for him. As you can see, he's now going to use the Jaguar. He gets it back. The Jaguar is going to be able to do piercing damage to the Jushua. There is nothing he can do at the moment, and it is paying off. Basically, his strategy was kind of weird to us, because he's maining Duster and not that many unshops, but by having 17 walking...
Gonna summon Heat Leo.
I'm surprised by this, though. Wasn't he supposed to use the Stalio to bounce and then... So he used the Stalio, he gets back the Sanctuary here.
He has 4 minutes remaining on the round, so...
I think that was game if you just didn't use the Jaguar. Like, you just use the Stalio, use the Wolf, you bounce back the Dragster, you attack with both, and that's game over.
Well, he should still be able to find game on this board.
Should he?
He can go Heat Leo.
Yeah, but... Like, even if you reincarnate the Heat Leo, do you have any other way to get damage on board here? Very, very surprised here. We are getting 3 minutes of extra time in this case, and it doesn't seem like he's even bouncing here. So, wow.
So he set the attack of Dawn Dragster to 0.
Very surprised about what's going on at the moment. Basically, as soon as he had the Jaguar, Stalio, and Wolf, the game was over, because all he needed to do was summon an Heat Leo there, using the Stalio and the Wolf, bounce back the Dragster, attack with the Jaguar, piercing damage, and game over. Wow. Here they're just checking the attack, because does Heat Leo, there is a chance that Heat Leo actually says original attack, which would be very bad against Dragster. Oh my. This game was surely over, and now it is completely turned back. So yeah, they're just discussing it because it's because basically the Heat Leo.
Yeah, so the attack becomes equal.
Yeah.
So the attack is just statically set to 0 for this turn.
Yeah, but they just want to make sure, because Dragster is also not a monster that has his attack fixed, let's say. So
any effect which makes the monster's attack become a value means that the attack is just set to the value and cannot be edited for the rest of that turn. But clearly the players are looking for clarification.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's quite understandable. They are probably getting an appeal if even it comes down to that. Like, you don't want to have anything like badly happen here. You want to make sure that you're doing everything right. And we're getting an appeal to the judge about the situation, just to know what happens when you do Italy or Dragster. But again, very surprised by this. Like, I think he piloted it very well, because he wasn't in a good spot. He held the silent mining, which is something that the average player wouldn't do.
Yeah.
He saw the line where he baited the silent mining and went for Ita to bring back the Reclusia and go for Stalio. So he was doing everything perfect. So every difficult move he was doing perfect. And once he got to the last play, which was literally just summon it Leo, bounce the Dragster and attack with Jaguar for piercing damage, it's game. He didn't see the line, apparently, or maybe he was rushed by the judge, because we know he got a warning for slow play.